Welcome back to Full Sport Press. I'm Peyton.
I am Zach.
All right, we have an episode for you today, as always.
Indeed we do.
All right, let's start off with our what we saw. I am going to be discussing a lacrosse goal. I was in person for this, so most of my stuff I'm talking about today, I was live in person because that took up pretty much my whole weekend of sports. This one happened in the Atlas game. They were playing the Whip Snakes, and there was a loose ground ball. Someone had gotten hit, and the ball kind of fell right in front of the goal. And Xander Dixon, who actually was one of my what we saw last week's, he kind of just hits the ball, and I think he was going for the goal, but he just hits the ball, and it goes right to his teammate's stick, and he just tosses it right in the goal. It was like it was more impressive with how fast it happened. Like he was just ready for it. Boom, right across into the guy's stick, into the goal. Like I said, I think he was trying to just hit it into the goal, and it just happened to go right into his teammate's stick. But it was just an awesome play that ended in a goal. So yeah, that was my what we saw. If you haven't seen it, it was in SportsCenter's top 10. Look it up.
Nice. Well, mine. I'm going to be talking about Aaliyah Boston again because I can't help myself. Aaliyah Boston got her first double-double in the WNBA. She got it Tuesday night, yes, against the Sky. Peyton, you actually watched the end of that game, and
I did.
Man, I can't talk about the ending because that hurt. But yes, Aaliyah got her first double-double. She went 12 of 15 shooting, so that is just absolutely outrageous. 25 points, 11 rebounds. That game Tuesday night against the Sky, she absolutely kind of showed a sense of her old self in college where she is just absolutely dominant and running everything on the floor. Defensively, it went through her. Offensively, it was going through her. And we put ourselves in a position to win. 2.7 seconds is too much time, though. Let's move on, please, before I cry.
All right, I'm gonna send it over to you for your game of the week from last week because mine will kind of lead into our next topic. So why don't you go ahead and start with your game of the week from last week?
Alrighty. Well, my game of the week was the Sun versus the Aces. This was a doubleheader for the week. They played first Tuesday night and then played again on Thursday night. On Tuesday night, the Aces beat the Sun. It was kind of close for a little bit, but I think the Aces ended up running away with it. But in the Thursday night game, Dewana Bonner had some issues with what happened Tuesday, and she decided she was going to score 41 points. This is a, I believe, 14-year vet now, scoring 41 points against the almighty Aces. And in this game, the Aces were just bad. I think Asia Wilson had 13 points, which, I mean, isn't a terrible night, but it's not Asia Wilson numbers. Jackie Young had 10. Kelsey was the top scorer with like 16. So they just had a bad night. The Sun, who are a threat to get to the finals. This was a finals rematch. They looked really good. Alyssa Thomas is still looking good. Dewana Bonner seems to be able to score whenever she wants. So it was a good game. Got to watch all of it.
All right, then we have my game, which was on Friday night, Archers versus Chrome, both 1-0 going into the game. Kind of looked like a high-powered offenses on both sides. Like I said, I was in person for this game, and let me say it was kind of a domination. The Archers came out. They were missing their top attackman, Grant Ament, and it really didn't matter. Chrome, for some reason, could not get any possession of the ball, especially in the first half. And when they did, it just seemed like they would run down, take a shot, and it was getting saved pretty much every time. So they had a bunch of offensive struggles. The final score was 7-12. Archers win. So win by 5. It's funny, that was my game of the week, and it was the only game that was not decided by only one goal. So all the other ones were closer besides that one. But when we say there was a couple good, couple standouts, even though the Chrome only scored 7 goals, 5 of them were scored by Jackson Morrell. He had a couple that were like insane shots, but yeah, it was a little rough at halftime. It was already 5-1, so Chrome really got dominated, and part of that was the goalie for the Archers, Dobson. He had 18 saves, which means he saved 72% of the shots on goal, which is pretty good. I mean, that if you think about it. So yeah, it was a good game still, just watching some good goals, but kind of a blowout.
Do they just not score as much in professional as they do college? Because I'm looking at like the scores you have in the notes, and I'm like, these. It's not like what you were saying with like Duke and Notre Dame and all them.
Right. So one thing is it is shorter quarters. College is 15-minute quarters.
It's
PLL is
shorter in
12.
pros.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
So it's
weird.
12-minute quarters there.
Hmm.
I think the big thing this year also to add to it, I think there's a couple things. First, when you get into college, the defense maybe has like one or two defenders that are really good, but other than that, they may struggle a little bit. When you get onto these teams, there is no weak spot on that defense, and especially going into this season, the goalies have been the best I've ever seen. They have every game I've watched, there's been just insane saves that you don't normally see. So that's part of it, just better defense, better goalies in the pros. Um, and part of it now is the shot clock. They're still getting used to like a shorter shot clock and not having as much time. So there's a good bit of stuff that goes into it, especially when you get into that level. I think mostly it's just the higher skilled defenders and goalies, which maybe you don't think about because they're also higher skilled offense, but they're so good at defense now that all these cutters that would be open in college aren't open anymore. They're still getting shut down. Um, so why don't we just move straight into the PLL, discuss the rest of the weekend, and then I'm going to kind of give you a breakdown of how the PLL game day was, if you ever want to go see it in person, because it was a cool event. So after that game, Chrome Archers, there was Water Dogs, Redwoods, the other matchups of 1-0 teams. And let me tell you, that was a crazy game. The Water Dogs started off up 6-0 in the first quarter. So they were up 6-0. Redwood score the next 6 to make it 6-6. Because we were sitting there and I was like, this is going to be a blowout again. And then Redwood's going to run, score 6 in a row. And then the rest of the game is just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until Rob Pennell scores the winning goal. And the Redwoods get their 2-0 start, looking outstanding, honestly. Rob Pennell and Ryder Garnsey, both the attack guys for the Redwoods, are playing outstanding. And then the Water Dogs moved to 1-1, the champions from last year. But, I mean, that was a good game. They played good, just couldn't finish it off. Then we had the next day, Whip Snakes versus Atlas was the first game. Now, remember, these next two games, both teams were 0-1 going into it. Now, the Atlas have never beaten the Whip Snakes in the history of the PLL. They have always lost to the Whip Snakes whenever they played. That changed on Saturday. The Atlas pulled out a win 12-11. Trevor Baptiste, the face-off guy for the Atlas, he was dominant. And Jeff Teat, the attackman for the Atlas, was also dominant. He had a great game. Baptiste went, he was 15 for 23 on face-offs, so dominated at the face-off. And Jeff Teat had 3 goals, 2 assists. And on the other side, Matt Rambo looked really good, and a couple of players that didn't get to play last week for the Whip Snakes, Zed Williams, he had an amazing game. So both of those teams, even though the Whip Snakes are 0-2, I think they're still very dangerous. They have a lot of weapons. Tucker Dordovic, the rookie, had another good goal. So I would not doubt the Whip Snakes yet. Then finally, we've closed the weekend off with Chaos versus Cannons. This was a massive comeback from the Cannons. They were down big going into the fourth quarter, and they needed a huge comeback, and they got it. They were down 12-9, and then at the very end of the game, let's see how much time was left. With a minute left, they hit a 2-point goal to tie it up, and it was a crazy shot to tie it up, to force it to OT. So they make that major comeback, get it to OT, and then Josh Byrne puts the dagger in them, not even a minute into overtime to end the game. Cannons, I will say, are already looking much better. They were the worst team in the league for the last 2 years. And even though they're 0-2, they have both only lost by 3 goals and then 1 goal. So they're making it close. They got good offense. They just got to put that missing piece in. And another team, Chaos, they had a couple players that were returning from playing in the NLL. One of those was Josh Byrne, who had the hat trick and the winning goal. So already seeing the effects of that. So let's talk about game day. So Friday night, I will say I haven't been to that stadium since I went to see the Charlotte Hounds, which was the old lacrosse league that played in Charlotte, and that was 2016 maybe. and they had major upgrades. So if Charlotte does have a PLL team, that stadium is really nice now. And I know I sent you a picture. The view from it is out crazy. You can see the entire city.
Mm-hmm.
But they have at the PLL, they have a kind of a game day experience where you get there early, you can go to it, and they have a bunch of cornhole boards set up that you can play cornhole with. They have a mini lacrosse rink kind of for kids to play against each other. You can measure how fast your lacrosse shot is. Um, you can look at all the uniforms. They have the helmets sitting there for you to look at. They also have like an autograph section. So like one player might come over per day and kind of sign autographs or take pictures, which was kind of crazy because you think about NFL, NBA, this would be like they get escorted over there or whatever. And we're in line waiting to go in the stadium. And Rob Pennell on Saturday was the guy for autographs. And we watch him just ride up on a scooter from the road, get off the scooter, and come in and start signing autographs.
Why not, man?
It was hilarious. I was like, is that Rob
I love
Pennell?
it.
And we just watched him ride all the way to the
Oh, that's
autographs
great.
and start signing. I was like, what in the world just happened? But it was hilarious. And they had like kind of food trucks and stuff. So it was a cool atmosphere, not even if you're a lacrosse fan, just to go hang out. They also have a section in the stadium behind one of the goals called Bar Down. I think it's like sponsored by Barstool Sports or something because they always have something there. And it's only 21 and over, and they have like $5 beers, and they do all of these kind of stuff over there, like making beer pyramids with the beer cans that people drink. And so it's not just going to see lacrosse. They have a bunch of other stuff going on with it, which makes it a fun event, I would say. Yeah, so all in all, I was impressed. I loved it. Hopefully Charlotte gets a team. I know that people had made shirts that said PLL for Charlotte, trying to convince it and stuff. So it was a cool weekend.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. Yeah, I've never been to a lacrosse game. I think the closest one here would be Columbus or like the All-Star weekend in Louisville. Yeah. But yeah, it sounds like fun.
If you want to go to Columbus, it's this weekend at Ohio State.
Oh, damn. Well, yeah, I will not be going this weekend, but at least it's there. I think I actually looked at tickets because I was looking at the Louisville one or looking for tickets for it to see how much they were, and I saw the Columbus one. But yeah. All righty. Well, that moves us into our next section, which is golf.
Golf.
Yay.
Major news in the golf world.
Yeah. So we're probably only going to ever talk about golf a handful of times here. We did with the Masters. A big point with the Masters was LIV golfers versus PGA Tour golfers. Well, now LIV and PGA have merged. And this is not a LIV failed, so PGA are just taking them in and keeping them afloat. No, they are merging and they are equal partners to the PGA. So, yeah, it's a lot for golfers to take in. I still do not completely know what it all means or what's happening or the nuances of it all. But all I know is that LIV and PGA are now merged. They are equal partners in this merge. What I read earlier was PIF, which stands for the Saudi Public Investment Fund, has rights alongside the PGA Tour and DP World Tour. And they can invest how they want, and they have the right of like refusal on any capital that may be invested into them. So basically, all the talking heads are saying that LIV is going to completely change the game of golf, and it seems like their mission, LIV's mission, is to change it, but also to get golf more on a global scale than it is now. So, yeah, huge news.
I'll say I think it's interesting because of how it all went down. PGA kind of making the stance that all these golfers are unethical or bad people for going to LIV. And then those golfers that didn't do it and stayed loyal, I feel like now they're kind of regretting it, right? Because all these other golfers got paid however much money, and these guys stayed loyal. But they're now combining forces. And I know Rory McIlroy, he said a lot of interesting stuff that I'm not sure how much of it is going to happen or whatever. But I know he said like these guys won't go unpunished or all this stuff. Like there will be consequences for them if they left PGA to go LIV. But I don't know if that really makes sense considering they're joining forces. Why would they get punished now?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much that's just him trying to make that happen or
Yeah.
what. And then I also read some choice words from someone from LIV saying no one ever wants to golf with Rory McIlroy ever again, and all these things about him. So
So.
I think we have a lot of drama coming
Oh
along in the
yeah.
golf world.
I mean, this is where we were with the Masters. It was all these LIV golfers who left are now coming in to play the Masters against these PGA people who, some of which used to be best friends and have not talked in months, you know? But now, yeah, we're getting to a point where they're going to be playing beside each other every outing, every tour. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I know there's like nuance in it all, and some people don't like the Saudi backed and all this stuff. I don't know enough to have an opinion on it, so I'm just not going to until I educate myself on it yet. But yeah, it's definitely going to be filled with drama.
Yeah, and I will say I don't know if you've seen it on Netflix, just seen it. There is a golf documentary show called Full Swing,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't watched the first season yet, but I might because it actually looks kind of interesting. But they're filming season 2, and apparently the cameras were rolling when the LIV guys found out that PGA and them had merged. So I'm gonna be excited to see that when
Yeah,
that comes out, to
that's
see
going to
the
be interesting.
reactions from them.
Yeah.
And I really want to see like are they going to take elements of LIV like the teams or
Mm-hmm.
the less relaxed and put it into the PGA, or is like I'm interested to see how that goes
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to
because
be.
no one really knows right now.
No, it's going to be interesting. I'm excited too. All
All
right.
right,
I don't want to
moving
discuss this
on
one.
to soccer. Starting off, we have the Man City has completed the treble. I did not get to watch this game, and actually, I'm kind of glad.
I
From
did
what
get
I
to
read,
watch it.
it wasn't particularly that great of a game.
It was pretty good.
Um, Man City won, obviously 1-0.
I
Lukaku
mean,
from Inter Milan had a bunch of mess ups,
mhm.
and they
Yeah.
cheated.
Well, Man City, obviously.
Yeah.
That's why they won. But, I mean, they can enjoy the trophy for a few months, and then it'll get stripped. But they'll worry about that then. I did watch it. I watched the whole thing, actually. And, yeah, it went to halftime. Neil all. Sorry, go back to my tennis days. Love all. And coming out of halftime, it really looked like Inter Milan not had Man City locked down, but they were keeping them from scoring, keeping them from getting like really good looking shots. And when you're playing against, it did help that Kevin De whatever. How do you say his last
De
name?
Bruyne.
Yeah. Whenever he went out, that obviously helps. But you're still going up against Erling Holland, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, eventually there were too many cracks for Inter Milan. Just one leaked through. Again, somebody who for Man City, I don't believe ever really scores, just got through and put it away. And then Inter, they had their chances at the very end. They had like one really good chance, and they couldn't connect on it. So that's how it goes.
All right. Well, let's move on from Man City to probably the bigger news than the golf. These kind of happened back to back where it
Mm-hmm.
just dominated the sports news cycle.
Yeah.
Messi says he is coming to Inter Miami. And I saw a couple people claim this is like the biggest sports move in U.S. sports history, like bigger than LeBron going to the Heat, stuff like that. And let me just say, like, it is crazy to see that this team, who was not a good MLS team, they were last in the Eastern Conference. And after 2 days, I believe they become behind like a couple NBA teams. They're one of the most followed teams on social media, like
Mm-hmm.
immediately. And
Yeah.
that's just crazy to see his impact that fast. Like he hasn't played a game, he hasn't been
Mm-hmm.
in the jersey at all. Just immediately that's what happens when
Yeah.
Messi comes to the MLS.
I mean, I don't see how people can really argue that it like wouldn't be the craziest U.S. sports thing. Because even LeBron going from Cleveland to Miami, that's just NBA people who care. and nobody else. This is
Yeah.
soccer. Like, it is
Global.
worldwide. Yeah, obviously, this is going to be huge.
Which
For
there's
him to
been
come to
some,
MLS,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. There's been a big players come in the past, but
but
nothing
not
like this.
Messi.
Yeah, one of
Yeah.
the maybe the best soccer player of all time, and he's still playing good soccer. Like he scored 20
Hmm.
goals for PSG last season. Like he's not like it's not like he's bad. Like
Hmm.
he's good. He's not at the end. He is at the end of his career, but he's not like playing worse than he has
Hmm.
before. So I am interested to see how that goes in the MLS. Does he dominate?
Hmm.
I know, like as soon as this happened, all the games that Inter Miami has left on their schedule sold out immediately,
Oh yeah.
and any that were on resale went up to like $500 as the lowest price. It was kind of ridiculous, and I'm ready for him to finally get here and start playing. But as soon as that happened, then there was like rumors that Angel Di Maria may come and join him, who plays at Juventus. Luis Suarez might come and join him. And then, like I think the biggest thing this does is it puts MLS on the global scale,
Hmm.
and just Messi being in the league shows other people that this isn't just a retirement league. This isn't just a play
Hmm.
around league. Like there can be
Exactly.
serious players here.
Hmm.
So hopefully
Yeah.
this propels the MLS to become a big league.
I mean, it does nothing but help U.S. soccer, which is
Yeah.
exactly what we need because, dear God, it's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, to have a player like Messi, I mean, it's like, I don't know, Michael Jordan going to play for like the Hong Kong Tigers or something, you
Well,
know?
let's say like Tom Brady going to play in the Canadian Football League.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
Like, it's one of the best players, if not the best ever, coming to what has been known as the Good Player Retirement League in the MLS because it's slower and they're going to be the best ones. Now he's coming in, not the prime of his career, but still at a good point in his career and going to just bloom it up. Yeah, good.
and I think it's interesting. They haven't released like official details on contract or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but from what I read, Inter Miami was not expecting his announcement to happen. Like they didn't know he was coming to the
Nice.
team until
Yeah.
like he announced it.
Because
But
they had
he
to make
is
moves. Yeah.
Yeah. So MLS has some complicated transfer rules, which I won't get into now.
Yeah.
But they had to do a couple things in order to make room for him, and he agreed to a deal with, I believe, Apple and Adidas. So he will get portions of the MLS season pass money, and he will get portions of kit sales, any jerseys that sell with Miami, him in Miami. So yeah, I think it was more of because he did get offered $1 billion to come play in the Saudi Arabian League.
Mhm.
But this is more you get to live in Miami, the U.S., instead of Saudi Arabia, which I'm sure is a much more desirable place. But he also gets these deals with Apple and Adidas that will give him, I don't know how much money, but I assume a lot.
I mean, those are going to be deals that are going to last him past soccer because his jersey is still going to be selling after.
Yeah,
They're not going to take Messi Inter Milan or Inter Miami jerseys out of the store for a couple years after he's gone. And then
exactly.
that the season pass is just going to keep going until the MLS falls apart. So,
Yep.
yeah.
All right, so some more transfer news. These were bigger, obviously, before Messi happened. That kind of overshadowed everything. But Alexis McAllister from Brighton, he played for Argentina in the World Cup. He is coming to Liverpool from Brighton for
Up the
35
Reds.
million. It is a bargain. He was rumored to be like 70 million. We're paying 35 million, and that is confirmed. So I think that was like one of the first confirmed transfers of the window. So he will definitely be coming to Liverpool, which is much needed because our midfield is pretty much done for.
It's all bad.
So
It's all
it
bad.
is.
So
Yep.
let's just be honest.
And then, sadly, I hate it, but more players are moving to Saudi Arabia. Um, it was N'Golo Kante, who plays for Chelsea, and Karim Benzema, who plays for Real Madrid. Both of them are going to Saudi Arabia. Kind of just, I mean, the thing is, they're offering insane amounts of money that it's like, how do you say no? You do have to live in Saudi Arabia. You have to play in front of them, and you're in the lesser league. But when you're getting offered $1 billion, $500 million, how do you say no to that? Like it's just an insane amount. And I'm gonna be honest, it's getting a little worrying that Saudi Arabia may just take over all sports because they're also trying to buy an NFL team currently. Like it's getting a little ridiculous.
Well, they have a lot of oil money and a lot of
Yeah.
like slave tough stuff money. So
So yeah,
yeah,
that I will say is a little concerning, but
yep,
it's happening. So
they're going to be coming after college football next.
NIL deals sponsored by Saudi Arabia.
Oh me, oh my. Alrighty, wow. Well, that gets us into the WNBA. Alrighty. Let's see. I don't have a whole lot this week. It's gonna not only really talking about one game in the Fever. So one, the Fever are starting to be not trendsetters, but they're starting to set a trend for themselves, and that trend is losing close games.
Yeah.
Within June so far, the Fever have lost 3 games by a total of 12 points. It's been awful. They should have beat the Aces. They were leading them the entire game. Let that one go, which is you can't be mad about that one because it's the Aces. They're better. That's what you kind of have to expect. It just hurts more when you were leading the whole game. Same thing with the Sky. Led them basically the entire game. That was the game Aaliyah Boston was going off. And then at the very end, with 2.7 left, you let Kalia Copper get an uncontested layup, take it to overtime, and the Sky win it. Then in the middle of the week, got a win against the Lynx that was like a 2-3 point win against another bad team. And then lost yesterday a close back and forth between the Sun with Diana Taurasi and BG just absolutely doing whatever she wants. Aaliyah Boston did not have a good game yesterday against BG, but that is BG, so what do you expect? It's just tough. It's like at the beginning of games and in the middle of games, especially second and third quarter, the Fever are hitting shots. They are on fire. And in that fourth quarter, that home stretch, it just looks like they get tired. They start to make dumb decisions, and then they can't hit shots, and they can't close out games down the stretch. I really think that if they can get those mistakes cleaned up, hit some more shots in the fourth quarter, they can win these close games. They can win some games. So right now they're sitting at 2-5 or 2-6. I think 2-5. Still bottom of the league, but still growing. So if you're a Fever fan, I feel your pain. It's tough. All right, getting on to teams that are winning. The Liberty. Oh my God. Yesterday they were down, not big, but they were down against the Wings. Never want to be down against the Wings against Enrique Agumbawale and Satu Sabali. But they end up coming back. Sabrina Ionescu has a huge third quarter to put the Liberty over the edge and get the win. Stewie had a near double-double with 32 points on 15 for 20 shooting and 2 for 4 from 3. 9 rebounds, 5 assists. Satu Sabali is a double-double machine. I'm pretty sure, I want to say after the second quarter, she was like a few rebounds away from having her double-double already. Like it's insane. She's averaging a double-double, one of 2 players. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then Enrique Agumbawale can just make anything. She pulls up from half court and it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. She's going to hit it. So yeah, watch out for the Wings. Their record doesn't look like it, but man, watch out for them. All right, and then after that, I just want to go over the best team so far and the best players. So far, right now, the Sky. Siri just caught all of that.
Yeah.
And said, I'm sorry. Okay, anyway. The Sky have been surprising performers this year so far. They're 5-5, but they were expected to be so bad after losing Courtney Vandersloot and Candace Parker and a lot more veterans. But they're 5-5 so far. Kalia Copper is leading the pack at 17.2 points a game. And then Marina Mabry is right behind her with 16.1. So the Sky are looking pretty good. If you have them on your schedule, it's not one where you're terrified like the Aces, but it's one's like, that's going to be a tough game. We got to dial in for this one. Like I just talked about, Dallas, they look solid. Even with everything falling apart, they have Tierra McCowan, who just had to go overseas to Turkey for a month to do her time there with her team. And then they've had I want to say 3 or 4 terrible injuries that are just eating up their bench, but they have made the right moves in free agency. They signed Kalani Brown and Honesty Sims, which have kind of boosted them up off the bench. And man, their big three, Natasha Howard, Satu Sabali, Arike Agumbawale, if they are shooting good, it's lights out. And then obviously the Aces, Liberty, and Sun, they're the best teams in the league right now. They're absolutely killing it. The Mystics are right there too. But yeah, that's a little report on the team so far. And as far as players, third time I've said her name, Satu Sabali. I just can't stop saying it. 22.1 points per game and 11.2 rebounds. She is averaging a double-double, along with one other player being Brianna Stewie herself, at 24.9 points per game and 10.1 rebounds. Yeah, that's how we're looking so far in the WNBA. If you did not know, yes, it sounds crazy because the season just started a month ago, but All-Star voting is open already. I think we had the first 2-for-1 day yesterday on Sunday, and there's more coming up. So if you're watching the WNBA, make sure you're getting your votes in for your favorite players. Of course, all mine are going to Fever players, because why would they not be? Aaliyah Boston to Vegas, baby. And yeah, that's the W.
All right, well, let's move on to the NBA. Let's take away the W. So, looking at the finals first, let's just go ahead and talk about it. It's not been overly entertaining. Like, it's kind of been
I haven't watched
Nuggets
the
on
game.
top.
I haven't watched
They're
the
up
game.
3. They're up 3-1. Jokic are doing Jokic things. Jamal Murray doing Jamal Murray things, and I just don't think the Heat sadly are good enough to compete. I don't know how they got that far, but they did it somehow. And we got Game 5 tonight. My assumption is Denver will win. If they do, my prediction would be right. I did say Denver in 5. So, but maybe who knows? Maybe Miami can pull something off here.
Yeah.
I know the role players for the Heat have just not been showing up. Max Strus has been horrible. Caleb Martin feels like he hasn't had that same impact that he had against the Celtics. It's just been not the finals performances that they needed from these guys. So yeah, maybe
Yeah.
something will change tonight.
I feel like you have to wonder. Well, one, obviously, the talent disparity is you've got
Yeah.
an amazing team front to back with Denver, and then literally a team made up of the NBA scraps, people that have been not drafted, who have been free agents, waived off of teams that have kind of just come together in Miami and figured out a way to get here. Yeah, it hurts when Jimmy Butler just isn't doing what he needs to, because you're losing, it feels like everything there. You're losing scoring, rebounds, defense, energy, like everything important to getting wins goes with him, which it just can't happen. Yeah, I'm gonna say the Heat do it in 7 because I have to, but realistically, yeah, it's over tonight.
Yeah. And I believe our next thing, Zach.
I mean, yeah, it's just seeming locked in that Brandon Miller will be the number 2 pick. So
I don't think I'm happy about that as a Hornets fan. I don't trust him based off his college record here.
Off his college record, I would like it because he's good.
Saying like his off the court.
Now, see, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's what I was thinking the other day, because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, man, Brandon Miller to the Hornets, he seems like he's not even into it because he hasn't really worked out. He's apparently out of shape. Doesn't really care about basketball. Yeah. But then I thought back to the year of Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball. Because I remember at that point, when I was still a Hornets fan, we were discussing, man, who do you want? Because it had just come out. Anthony Edwards didn't even care about basketball. He wanted to play football. So it was like, do we even want him? At this point, if I was still a Hornets fan, I would say, yeah, I'd rather have Ant than LaMelo. Not only has he stayed healthier and played better, but he just seems like the better player now.
I will say though, I feel like he is in a better situation. Like he actually has people around him.
Oh
Like
yeah, for
he's
now
not the
though.
number one on the team. I would say Cat probably was the number one
But
focus of other
yeah, but he's
teams.
about to be. That's where
But
it might
with
change. Yeah,
Lamelo, he was it. I mean, we have Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward. Like Lamelo is the one guy that was kind
yeah.
of the star, and that's it. And he's been like that since day one.
Hmm.
So like giving that factor of it, I'm not ready to judge Lamelo yet. Um, until we fire Steve Clifford and hire a real coach, uh, which
Well,
I don't know if that'll ever happen. So
Michael Jordan just needs to sell.
something needs to
You
happen.
have not only with how this franchise has gone. When I talk to people about NBA expansion, you know the city that comes up the most? Charlotte, to move them out of Charlotte,
I
because
mean,
why would you not? But the issue with that is if you move them out of Charlotte, you lose a prime spot for a WNBA team, because expansion talks there have been Toronto, been a little bit of the Bay Area, but Charlotte's been a big one too, because one, they've already had one, and they've already got an arena and the resources they need. So it seems like this draft has, for Michael Jordan, has kind of come down to whatever happens here is going to make my decision on whether I sell or not. So
see,
yeah,
here's what I'll say. I say they shouldn't move that team because the fact that any fans still show up is amazing. To be quite honest, they rehired a coach that wasn't good when he was there, wasn't good when he left,
nope.
and then they bring him back, and he's still surprisingly not good.
He brought the
Um,
Magic from the bottom of the league to not making the playoffs. Okay, cool.
yeah, exactly. And the fact that he will, I'm guessing he'll be the coach next year. I mean, why
Why would
else?
he not be? It's only been a year.
So we'll revisit this next year, I'm sure, and we'll be in the exact same position. So that'll be fun.
Crazy.
I've said it once, I'll say it again. Hornets. I don't ever see a way up for them. Like I looking into the future, all I see is doom, nothing else.
I'm
Hopefully
glad.
something changes that. But
I'm happy that they gave me a reason to not like them anymore. Go Pacers.
all right, so moving on to college baseball, we have most of the College World Series teams confirmed. So Florida sweeps South Carolina. Both of them were close games, but they won. Sadly, Oral Roberts beats Oregon in 3 games, making that's a 4 seed to make the College World Series. That doesn't happen very often. All 3 of those games were crazy. The first game, Oregon wins on a walk off. Second game, Oral Roberts wins on a walk off. And then last night when they were playing, going into the top of the ninth, Oregon was only down 3, and then Oral Roberts scored 3 runs without getting a single hit. So that was fun. They walked like 4 guys and hit 2 guys. It was a mess. Then we got Wake Forest absolutely demolishing Alabama. Did you happen to see the final score of Game 2, Zach, of Wake Forest Alabama?
No, I
The
didn't.
final score for Wake Forest Alabama was 22-5. And this is a playoff game, like
Against an
Super Bowl
SEC baseball school.
against the
That's
SEC
crazy.
baseball. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
Wake Forest might be a team to watch out for in the College World Series. I mean, they are the 2 seed.
Mm.
Obviously, they're really good, but that's ridiculous. Virginia beats Duke in 3 games. Duke wins the first one, but then Virginia, they're just too good, honestly, for Duke to get past. LSU sweeps. Who did they play? Kentucky wins both of those games. TCU sweeps Indiana State. And then the final 2 spots, we got Southern Miss versus Tennessee tonight, and we have Texas versus Stanford tonight to decide the last 2 spots in the College World Series. And yeah, that'll start soon. So, all right, moving on to college football. Zach, I made a note about this earlier this week. Do you know what I mean by what I put?
No, I looked. I
All
tried
right,
to look it up. I
perfect.
couldn't find it.
Perfect. So, Arkansas athletic director. There was an article about him this week. He was going to DC, I believe, I guess to speak to someone. I don't know if it was congressman, to speak to congressman. So here's the quote
Why?
on what he was going to speak about. Hold on,
Okay.
wait till you hear the whole story. Here's what he wanted to speak about. Young men and women are making decisions not to go to the MLB or the WNBA or the NBA because they can make more money in college. Does that make any sense that you can make more money by staying in college than you can by going and being a professional athlete? That's where we have some issues in college athletics.
So does he
So,
realize that what he's saying is just simply not true?
well,
Like it's just
there's
not
a
true.
yeah,
If you look at the
and
numbers, I understand what he's saying because I've seen the numbers of what Angel Reese could make in the WNBA versus what she makes in college, but that's not everything with those numbers. There's way more to the story. So just go into Congress and completely tell a lie. Awesome.
here's what I find interesting is that the original reason for players, you want them to stay in school, right? Now they're staying in school all 4 years instead of leaving early, and they're angry that they're
Mm-hmm.
staying in school all 4 years. I
Well,
don't
yeah,
understand
because
that.
the people who pay for the college now have to pay the bills for these players, and they don't want to lose money because they're greedy. That's all it is.
I think it comes
Capitalism at its
down to
best.
I some schools just aren't going to be able to compete in NIL, and I don't know if Arkansas will be that, but to the whole argument of now they're staying in school longer is just funny to me, considering that's what you were mad about 10 years ago, that
Mm-hmm.
they were leaving early.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I I don't know.
I just thought that was a funny quote.
Yeah, man, people are dumb. Well, the other news we have in college football world is the Big Ten announced their 2024 and 2025 opponents. So this is the first, I guess, super conference you could say that has released like not a schedule but released opponents, so we kind of understand how they're going to do things. So let me pull up my little pictures here. Okay, so what's going to happen in the Big Ten? There are going to be protected rivals, so teams that play each other every single year. So I would assume games like the game, Ohio State and Michigan would be one. That's the only one I can think of, so that's the only one I'm going to say. But they also are going to have two play opponents. I love this idea. Did you see any of this?
No,
This is so smart, I think at least. So what it is, these two play opponents, they are considered non-permanent rivals that schools will play 2 years in a row before rotating. So in the SEC's instance, using South Carolina, we have one permanent rival, which is Texas A&M, and one rotating in the West, which I don't know who it is this year. Let's just say Auburn. But every year that team changes. So what they're going to do instead is they're going to have their protected rivalries. So let's just take Ohio State, for instance. They're always going to play Michigan. And then they are also going to have another team that they play back-to-back years and do a home-and-home series. And then once those two games are played, they'll rotate to somebody new. Pretty simple, not too hard to understand. But with that, we don't know the dates yet, but we do know some fun matchups that are coming up. So in 2025, we are going to get Ohio State versus USC, Penn State versus USC, Penn State versus UCLA, USC versus Wisconsin. Where I think that's all. Those are all the weird ones that I've seen so far because of the time and geographics and all that. But yeah, Ohio State USC as a regular season game. I mean, that's Rose Bowl right there.
I mean that's the new norm.
It's gonna be great. Man, that's gonna be awesome. I cannot wait. And I really feel like we're just getting closer and closer to, super conferences for one, but just a better product in general. We're not
I don't
going to
know
get
if
these
yeah.
Alabama versus FCS North. I'm thinking of NCAA 14.
Yeah.
We're not going to be getting those games, which, yes, it hurts the FCS teams. I don't care. I want a better product.
So I would say I'm not in favor of super conferences, but my idea will
Independence.
always be independent.
Independence. Yeah, it has
You
to
have
be.
to make a schedule good enough to where if you want to get in the college football playoff, you have to win your games, and that leaves no excuses for anyone that our conference just wasn't good this year or whatever it is. You need to make your schedule good enough to whatever year it is that you're able to win. And I honestly say get rid of the scheduling in advance, 10 years. You
Yep.
make your schedule that year so you know what that team's expected to be like. It's not a guess as to whether Texas is going to be good in 10 years.
Will
It's
they be
what's
back?
ahead. Yeah. So I always think that'll be the answer. That'll never happen,
No.
but I think it would be fun that way.
Though, college would be a good place to test out the Premier League format, where
Oh,
you have
yeah,
where you just have
relegation.
because you could even do that. Just cut the D1 schools. I wouldn't make you could just say in half, honestly, and have the best however many qualify for the playoffs, and the worst however many go into we'll just say D2. But then the ones who are the best in D2 can move up. I don't know.
I guess the only problem with it with college football would be disparity in schedules, because if you go face 12 of the toughest teams in the nation and you go in 12, this other team faced 12 of the easiest teams and they went 10-2. Who knows who's really better? But yeah, it's college football is just so hard to figure out a way for it all to work, because there is so many teams, there's so many different situations. There's never going to be a right answer, but
No,
it's
and
fun to try to figure it out.
It's getting into Wild West territory, which is fun.
All right, we are moving on to the games of the week. I'll start off with mine. It is going to be soccer this week. We are heading to the Nation League semifinals, which is the CONCACAF kind of thing. We have USA versus Mexico, the rivalry of all rivalries in CONCACAF. Thursday, 10 p.m. on Paramount Plus. Now, adding extra incentive to watching this game, it will most likely, I think, be Balogun's first game for the U.S. national team. If you remember, he committed a few weeks ago to the U.S. team, and a lot of hype around it. And he is named to the roster, so he will at least be on the bench or in the starting lineup. But I am excited to hopefully see him play for the first time, and it will be like a full-strength roster. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see the U.S. team first time, kind of like with a full roster since the World Cup. See if we made any progress. But also kind of interesting, we don't have a coach, like we have an interim coach at the moment, don't have a permanent one. So yeah, a lot of things to kind of look for in that game. Thursday, 10 p.m. Paramount Plus.
Not 10 p.m.
I think they're playing in like, hold on, I'll see where that is, because I don't know if it's a home game somewhere. Or what.
Ugh.
Yeah. Let's see. You keep going with yours, and I'll.
Alrighty. Well, my game of the week, I'll give you $20 if you can guess. WNBA game. Sparks versus Wings. This is a weird time, but I guess you're just going to have to be distracted at work to watch it. This one comes on Wednesday at 1 p.m. I don't know why the WNBA does this, but they do. I have a game later this year that is at 12 p.m. I will be going to. So that'll be fun. Get to take off work for that. And this game is on NBA TV. I have talked about the Wings so much this episode, and guess what? I'm going to do it again. You will get to watch Satu Sabli, Natasha Howard, Arike Agumbawale just absolutely light the floor up. And then go against the Sparks team, who have the really good NECA sisters, as well as De'Erica Hamby, as well as a fun bench to watch. It should be a good one overall. Both teams, I believe, are pretty close in their record, so it'll be a dogfight in the West right there. And yeah, did you ever find?
So it is in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, the Raiders Stadium.
Nice.
So I guess that is why it'll be. The other semifinal taking place will be Panama, Canada, and then the final will be on June 18th, which would be Sunday, right? Yeah, Sunday. So if the U.S. does beat Mexico, they will have another match on Sunday, either against Panama or Canada for the Nations League. So yeah, all right. I think that about wraps it up. So you got WNBA, you got Nations League, you got PLL this weekend in Columbus, College World Series starting up. So yeah, I mean,
tonight, or probably tonight.
Probably, we don't know. Yeah. All right. I think that about does it. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.